co-hosted by Korea Health Industry Development Institute and Chungcheongbuk-do Province and sponsored by Ministry of Health and Welfare. BioKorea 2020. Good to see you all. I am announcer Park Seojin. This time, we'll introduce pharmaceutical bio and healthcare companies' competence to you and to introduce their strategy and vision to investors. This time is the presentation for SCM Bioscience. The company makes use of stem cells and immunocyte to come up with the atopic dermatitis and pancreatitis treatment, and they'll go to public on Kostak this June. We'll have President Lee Byung-gyun of SCM Bioscience.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Well, I assume that a lot of people know that SCM Bioscience. So would you like to introduce?
Our company, on
please?
top of stem cell, we also develop immunocyte treatment, which is one of the very few companies working on both too. In the near future, the stem cell and immunocyte, in order to win the global market, we have to come up with sufficient cGMP facility. And by securing a facility in the United States, we are ready to expand to the global market. If you take a look at the history about the pipeline, we are currently working on the second trial of graft versus host disease, and we're working on the 2A trial of acute pancreatitis and atopic for first disease. And recently, we got 2B clinical trial approval from the US FDA. And in terms of investment, since our foundation of 2014, we got 7 billion won of investment in 2015 and 10 billion Korean won of second investment in 2016. And I joined this company in 2018, and we got about 38 billion won as Series C investment, and we got 5.5 billion won of investment of Dio Pharma, and recently we got 4 billion won of investment from Handok and 2 billion won of investment from KDB Bank, and that makes 50.1 billion of Korean won. And we acquired Colmmune in the United States, and also we acquired Formula in Italy. I'll move on to the future-oriented pipelines. We work on both global license in and out, and we will expand our pipelines. And in terms of cancer immunotherapy and cranial nerve therapy, we plan to expand our market. Bioventure companies need three characteristics. First is competent technology, and second is the trend code of the board, and third is the capital to run the company. I'll briefly introduce the board members, and I, myself, worked for Council for Advanced Regenerative Medicine, which is a society for those regenerative medicine companies, and I work as president. And I was former president of Green Cross and vice president of Jeonggeun-dang and a chair of Korea Biotechnology Industry Organization, so I have a lot of ample experiences. And Dr. Song Sun-ho is CSO of our company, who is in charge of R&D, and Vice President Oh-Seo-gu on the right got a JD of law at Notre Dame University and working on business development. And on the bottom, Robert Pretty is an expert in cell generation, and Maury Ruffin is a key founding member of Alliance for Regenerative Medicine in the United States, so they provide consulting. This is the pipeline that we have. As you can see here, we're working on the second clinical trial of graft versus host disease and 2A of acute pancreatitis. And recently, the coronavirus outbreak is a thing, and the acute respiratory distress syndrome clinical trial, we're planning to run a clinical trial by applying to the US FDA. And if you take a look at the bottom, in terms of the cancer immunotherapy, there is metastatic renal cell carcinoma and acute leukemia treatment. First of all, let's begin with stem cell. Our key technology is subfractionation culturing method. The conventional companies work on density gradient configuration method, however, they cannot come up with high density. However, based on our subfractionation culturing method possessed by SCM, we can come up with high density therapy. And next, our strength is that we can come up with tailored treatments. So we take a look at different cells and we find out those key cells and come up with differentiated therapy to increase efficacy. In terms of stem cell treatment, the aforementioned the second clinical trial, this is a very rare disease. And last year there was this advanced regenerative regulation, and there is a law that if you pass the second clinical trial, then you can go under test selling. So by 2023, we are expecting to sell in the Korean market and currently working on atopic dermatitis treatment clinical trial. And if you take a look at the Spinocerebellar Ataxia, this is a rare disease, so that we plan to sell in the Korean market by 2023. And the acute respiratory disease is related to the coronavirus, and we are planning to get approval by May or June in Korea to begin its clinical trial. Well then, let's begin with this leukemia patients suffering graft versus host disease. So when they get bone marrow from normal people, then they get rejection. And steroid is the only treatment. However, if they get rejection, then they die. The number of patients is about 20,000 and 25% of them die. And the market scale is 540 billion Korean won. But if we succeed in coming up with an advanced cell therapy or new drug, then the market will grow. Currently, in terms of the global market, Janssen has Imbruvica, which is an oral pill, and they have to spend 150 billion won each year for treatment. And JCR Pharma has Temcel, which is a stem cell based therapy. But like I said, the density is low. They have to take 8 and they use 2 million cells per kilogram. However, our stem cell development uses high density, so you only have to inject for 4 times, and the number of stem cells is 1 million, which means currently the therapy cost is 150 billion won, but we can drastically decrease it. And we are currently working on the second clinical trial, and we use this for those patients showing refractory state, and we use 1 million cells. The primary endpoint is the 12th week, and we see the reaction rate. Next is acute pancreatic inflammation. This is an inflammatory disease, and it shows the worst symptom among others. And likewise, and there is no clear therapy for this. There are about 2.35 million patients, and the death rate is 15%, and the market size is 5 trillion won. We, the first time ever to use stem cell, is our goal. So far, if you take a look at competing companies, there's Japanese Takeda working on fusion protein. Samsung Bioepics is licensing in to go through the first trial in the United States. And we have completed the first trial and working on the 2A trial. And since this is an acute disease, we do day 1, day 0, day 1, day 2 to administer it. And the primary endpoint is the day 7th modified Marshall scores change. Next is atopic dermatitis. This is a well-known disease, however, there's no clear treatment. You have to use steroid cream or take oral immunosuppressive drugs. The number of patients is 130 million, and mid and serious patients account for 40%, and the market size is 8.5 trillion won, but it's rapidly increasing. In 2017, in the United States, they introduced Dupixent, and the market size is becoming 2 trillion won. And if you take the expected market size, it will form 10 trillion won by 2024. And the currently developing treatment by our company is planning to compete over this company. And if you take a look at Dupixent, you have to take once every 2 weeks. However, for us, you have to take only once every 6 months or 1 year, so it can decrease the cost. And in terms of cost, Dupixent's therapy cost is about $37,000 per year. However, we can drastically decrease the cost and we can increase the efficiency, convenience for our patients. And if you take a look at this slide, patient 1 got three of times of doses every 2 weeks, and then he became normal, and he could survive for 2 years without additional administration. Patient 2 got 3 pills and was normal for 6 months, but the symptom went worsen, and with the second administration, the patient was okay for 1.5 years. So based on this research, we are planning to develop a better medicine. If you take a look at this patient's body, he had a lot of skin problem. However, 12 weeks after, his skin became really clean. Currently working on the 1-2 clinical trial, and on the first clinical trial, 2 doses, namely 500,000 cells per kilogram, and the second one is 1 million cells per kilogram. And on the second clinical trial, based on the previous data, we set the dose, and we are planning to work on 72 patients. Next is a coronavirus-related acute respiratory symptom, which is ARDS. By using stem cells, we work on decreasing inflammatory cytokine, and we aim to increase anti-inflammatory cytokine to increase efficacy. And also, we suppress T cells, and we induce regulatory T cells. Let's move on to Spinocerebellar Ataxia. This is a very rare disease. This is a brain-related disease, and as shown on the left, the size of the cerebellum decreases as time passes by. So eventually you cannot work out, and you can't move, and you die. And there are about 4,000 patients in Korea, and the left image shows Korean citizens' petition. Globally, there is no clear therapy, so even if you go to the hospital, you can't get treated. So you just have to wait until you die. But hopefully, in Taiwan, there was a company which recently finished the second clinical trial, so we plan to import that into Korea and administer this drug. Beginning with this therapy, in the near future, we plan to work on the Parkinson's disease as well as dementia and other brain-related therapy. We are planning to work on that as well. Next one is immune therapy. In terms of this, there are a lot of companies licensing in. However, we acquired company in the United States and European markets, so we already secured this strategy, and we have recently acquired Colmmune in the United States, and we take 51% and Genaxin takes 49% of the shares. And on the right, in the middle, we have via Colmmune, we acquired formula in Italy in terms of next generation CAR T treatment. So on top of stem cell, we also secured immunotherapy, which is one of the few global companies to run 2-track. Let's take a look at the shareholding status. We're currently working on Series A investment. The value is $100 million. When we acquired Formula, we handed out shares. We gave 23% of our shares to Formula's shareholders, which was about $23 million. SCM and Genaxin in total have 77% of share, and SCM holds 51% of that, which means 39.2% of shares. And namely, that is about 47 billion Korean won. And we're working on Series A investment, and by August, we are planning to finish this, and we have $36 million of investment. If you take a look at the pipelines, in terms of metastatic renal cell carcinoma, we are working on the FDA's approval clinical trial. And in terms of this acute disease, we have just finished the first clinical trial. And if you take a look at this slide, we are working on 5 hospitals in the United States on 90 patients in terms of cohort A and cohort B treatment. So the primary endpoint of this is the overall survival rate of the patient's treatment. And there's first trial working in Italy, which is acute lymphocytic leukemia, to see its safety and efficacy. In terms of safety, instead of using patient's blood, we use healthy people's blood. And of course, there is a risk of graft versus host disease, but there was no such symptom. And CAR T therapy's highest risk is the cytokine, but it didn't show such symptoms, so it was safe. In terms of efficacy, among 13 patients, 7 patients clearly got treated, and the rest 3 showed partial improvement, so which means 77% showed improvement. The hottest part of immunotherapy is CAR T therapy. If you take a look at the status here, Novartis and Kite and Juno are the strongest companies in this field. As for Novartis, they use rantivirus. Kite and Juno use retrovirus. And by doing so, the highest risk and highest weak point, high cost, is that they had cost 400 to 500 million won to treat. And decreasing the side effect is our challenge for CAR T. And the next generation CAR T therapy that we're working on is without using virus and by using blood of healthy people. And we will decrease the cost by at least 80%, which means a therapy for one person will cost only 100 million Korean won. If you take a look at an M&A example, here Kite was acquired by Gilead for 12 billion won. So this product was worth this value, and Juno currently does not hold a product and working on the third trial, but it was sold for $9 billion, which means if we come up with a next generation CAR T therapy, then this single product will add a number of trillion Korean won to our company. Next is hardware and software of our company. In terms of hardware, we're expanding to hold a Songdo facility to expand to the Asian market, and on the right, we are planning to establish this facility to expand to the United States and European market. And what really matters more than hardware is software. So Colmmune, based on our third clinical trial, we are having networks with 120 organizations in the United States and Europe, and we have been working on clinical facilities based on our clinical third trial, and our technology mates with United States and European standards. And in order to produce this and in order to lower costs, we use 3D bioreactors. Currently, we are working in partnership with PBS, and as shown from the slide, if this PBS-80 bioreactor is used, then we can work on clinical trials. By doing so, we can decrease the cost by at least 80% is our goal. So, as a summary, our performance is as follows. Currently, we have partnership with Malaysia, the Philippines, and Singapore, and Brunei. We have secured patents, IP, and with Handok, we have licensed in terms of atopic skin inflammation and stem cell therapy. And for immunotherapy, based on Colmmune in the States and formula in Italy, we will work on various cancer anti-therapy as well as kidney cancer. And in terms of brain, we're working on Taiwan's dominance. On top of that, we will work on Parkinson's disease and dementia, among other no-cure diseases. We are planning to come up with a standard. And in order to achieve this, we are working on open innovation. The University of Utah and other universities in Korea, on top of that, we are working with cooperation with bioventure companies. So in the near future, we will come up with Performance. As I have mentioned, we are planning to go public on CoStock in June. So if you take a look at our goal, based on our own technology, we will global license in and out. And if we lack technology, then we will import to work on cancer immunotherapy, diabetes, among other diseases. And in order to do so, we need sufficient capital. We have 20 billion won of cash, and we will get 25 billion won of investment. And Colmmune's shareholding value is 47 billion won in total, which is about 90 billion Korean won. So we will put efforts to become a global company.
Thank you very much. It was President Lee Byung-gyun at SCM Bioscience, and we listened about pipelines and the business plan. Thank you, President Lee, for your presentation. Thank you.